Welcome to the Militia Gaming community. I'm Trigger, and this is your guide to the American Pop Culture Summit in the Crew Motorfest. Let's go! Real quick before I get into the video, if you're looking for a community of racers to play with, join our Discord. There's a link in the description down below. That's also where I do all of my giveaways, and we have every topic in there from the Crew Motorfest, the Crew 2, to Need for Speed Heat, Need for Speed Unbound, everything Need for Speed, and all kinds of other racing games. There's over 14,000 members there, so hit that link and join us. All right, let's get into this. All right, the first thing I want to take you through is the tunes for the 3 required vehicles for this summit. I'll show the tunes on screen along with the parts for each car, and then we'll take a look at the races and I'll give you my tips and tricks for each of the courses and the events. Here you go. All right, let's get into the races, starting with the rally raid races that you'll be using the Jeep Wrangler for. Let's start with Chase in the Jungle. This is a very difficult rally raid. Hopefully with the tune on this Jeep, you'll be able to take it a little bit easier. The Jeep will understeer for sharper corners, so you're gonna need to downshift or pull the handbrake in order to get the Jeep to slide. It's very important to do this on some of these harder turns. The next thing I want to recommend is you need to try to stay on the path and you need to not hit any trees. I would recommend going slower to not hit the trees than to try to go fast and then hit the tree and end up having to reset, because that's going to be slower than just taking it easy. So try to take it easy. Don't fall off the course and don't miss this bridge right here. That's a very common error spot. And then at the end, you want to hug the left side because you can fall down the hill. And when you start sliding with this Jeep or pretty much any rally raid vehicle in the game, it's very difficult to stop sliding. So try to hug the left side when you get close to the finish. Hopefully that helps you, but the tune on the Jeep will definitely make this a little bit more tolerable. All right, let's move on to the next one, which is Sharp Claw. This is mostly wide open, but there are some spots where you need to be careful. Most of them happen sort of towards the beginning of the race. When you get through with this first long straight, you do have a left that goes around this rock, and there's a patch of trees on your right side. You need to go through those trees towards the checkpoint. Just try your best to find a good path. There's definitely a path through there. You'll notice it if you run it a few times, and the Jeep definitely handles pretty well going through there. You don't have to worry about it slipping too much, but make sure you're hugging the right side checkpoint flag, with the same on the next checkpoint flag as well. Just try to hug that right side, and then be careful going up the dirt roads. There are a couple of switchbacks that are a little bit difficult to take, so downshift and or handbrake to get around them. It is faster to slide these corners in a lower gear so that you can accelerate out of them than it is to brake all the way and try to grip essentially the corners. You definitely want to be drifting these corners, but besides that, it is, like I said, very wide open, particularly at the bottom of the course. All right, let's move on to the Street Tier 1 races. There's one called C Viz Pacem, and I'm totally saying that wrong, but you guys know exactly what it is. That one you're going to have to use the Ford Mustang for. It is a tricky course, and there is one shortcut that you're going to need to know. It'll cut out a ton of time. Now, in order to do this, you're going to need to turn off one of your settings. Go to your game settings, go to difficulty, and then scroll down to where it says rewind. Turn that off. What that's going to do is allow you to just tap the Y or triangle button and reset your car, as opposed to having to rewind it. So That's step one. The next thing is, after this long sweeping first turn, you want to try to get as much speed as you can. Then dip into the dirt on the right side here and go on the right side of that checkpoint flag, but get close to it. And then cut left and go between this dumpster and this building. You're going to run all the way to basically the wall and then tap Y or triangle to reset your car. What that does is cut out that very sharp corner in which this car loves to slide out and lose traction. It's a very nice little cut that'll save you 5, 6, 7 seconds depending on how fast you are on the rest of the course. That is the biggest cut in the course. I've tried looking for others, but none of them are viable. This one for sure works, and you have to get used to the way that you're going to drive it because you're not going to be entering that really sharp corner. You can enter this at full speed with this tune, so enjoy. All right, next up is the Fortis Fortuna with the Mustang again. Now on this one, it's super important to cut every corner that you can. If you can control, if you're on manual and you can control your speed by downshifting and engine braking, that is recommended, as it will keep the rear end of the car sort of planted. If you brake instead, you tend to slip out as soon as you hit the gas again because the weight of the car is all the way in the front, and then you turn and then gas, and then all of a sudden you're sideways. So try your best to engine brake if you're on manual. If you're in automatic, it's tough, man. Just use your best judgment on your brakes and brake beforehand. That's my best advice. Now, this one doesn't have any real cuts to it that I could find. Maybe someone out there found it, but I don't see any way to cut and save time on this aside from just making sure that you're cutting these corners and taking the fastest lines possible like you're seeing in this video. What I'll do is I'll let one full lap play for you here so that you can see the lines that I'm taking. I feel like it's important on this particular course because you can definitely save some time by cutting these corners. And then I'll rejoin you and we'll get to the rest of the events. All right, next up is Cherry Red with the DeLorean DMC. This tune is meant to understeer. So because of this course, this tune really needs to understeer because you don't want to make any sudden movements. This car is extremely slippy. So there's a couple of recommendations that I have. Number one, always make sure you're lining yourself up with the wall as wide as you possibly can, and then take the apex and accelerate out. That's the only way you're going to be able to take this at full speed. Some of these corners you can take in 5th gear, and some of these corners you can take in 4th gear. But most of them can be taken in 4th or 5th. There's only a couple corners. There's one that you take in 3rd, and there's one that you take in 2nd. The 2nd gear turn is the one at the end of the first like long straight section. That turn is nasty, and you got to slow down way ahead of time. If you're in automatic, just make sure you're slowing down ahead of time. There's a significant advantage if you are in manual, so I recommend trying to learn manual if you can for this one specifically. All right, moving on to literally the worst event in the entire summit, and that is Sonora. This one is very tight. You have 2 walls, one on either side of you, and it's very difficult to drive. I tried just driving it normally and not hitting walls and slowing down and braking for corners, but it doesn't work. It's much faster, at least for me, to just almost full throttle it into the wall. I slowed down a little bit because if you do full throttle it into the wall, your car tends to flip. So you don't want to do that. Or if you wall ride, your car will actually go up the wall and you'll completely lose contact with the ground on one side of the car. So you do slow down a little bit, but you can take these corners and slide around them if you can. The best option is to slide them and hit the wall with the back of your car, not the front. The front gives you a huge speed penalty. The back does not give you a speed penalty. It does slow you down a little bit, but it's not like an actual penalty, which is what you get when you hit the wall in the front. So that's my recommendations for this. This is a terrible course. Do your best. This car really doesn't handle well for this course, but it is what it is. That thing is just an absolute bear. All right, let's get to the Feats. There's only one that I can make a recommendation on, and it's the Waimea Road Speed Trap. This one is an off-road speed trap. I had no problem doing this. in a hypercar. So if you have a hypercar like a Bugatti or something like that, do it in that, and then make sure you're nosing in air on these little jumps. That's the best way to do that, and you'll get 220, 30 or 40 miles per hour. Just back up to the top of the hill and full send all the way down. The other two events are very self-explanatory. I recommend a drag car for the speed trap, and I recommend an Alpha GP car or a hypercar for the Kualoa Beach Slalom. So anyway, definitely enjoy, guys. Hopefully you're doing good with the summit and you get platinum this week. It's important to do these every single week, and my goal is to put out a guide every single week. This one was a little bit late. I spent the majority of the week grinding for money so that I could be getting cars, so that I could be tuning, and of course putting out guides. So anyway, next week's hopefully will come a little bit sooner in the week. But I appreciate you guys watching anyway, and if you made it this far in the video, you're an absolute all-star. And remember, if you have any questions, you can send me a DM. It's open on Twitter, Discord, and Instagram. I appreciate it. I'll catch you on the next one. Trigger out.